Welcome back to part 2 of my DynaKit ST-35 vintage tube amplifier. After you watched part 1, you saw how I received it, and since then I've been using it and it's been working perfectly after I changed the tubes because I had a broken tube on shipping. If you want to see all that stuff, watch part 1. Anyways, been using it for what, a week now or something? Not sure. And it's been working perfectly. I have no problems at all, no glitches. I'm waiting for some parts. I want to do my own upgrades on the amplifier, and we'll go over those in a few minutes. Take the top off, lift the hinge out, look at the amp again. Stick back, I guess. Go over things I got. So since then, because I was anticipating doing some my own changes, and I'll go over those in a moment, I ended up buying a soldering iron. Get the camera. Ended up buying a soldering iron. You can see that a little lot. It's just from Radio Shack, but I like it because it's variable. It goes from off up to 60 watts. So off to 60 watts. So you can adjust the temperature on it, which is good. So if I want to do some circuit board soldering, I can use the lower wattage. If I want to do the point-to-point wiring, I can use a little bit more wattage. Comes with a pencil tip. It comes with 2 spare tips. That's a pretty fine tip, so it should be good circuit board, and it's got a taper on it, so I can use it for heavier soldering just by angling the tip on the material. More contact area, more heat, less contact, less heat. And so it should work out pretty good. So I bought that. I bought a little stand to go with it, so I can stick it in the stand like that. So hold it when it's hot. So space for a sponge holder. So I've got a sponge. Just put a sponge in there, wet it, keep the tip clean. Along with that, I bought some solder, so some 6040 solder. 6040 solder for electronics with a rosin core solder. I never use acid core solder on electronics. They're only for piping and stuff, right? So that's be rosin core. So it's pretty small solder. I think it'll do fine. It might be a little bit small diameter for some point-to-point wiring stuff, but it should work out alright. Also, I bought some desoldering braid. In the event I want to pull the solder, so if there's lots of solder there, I want to pull some of the old solder out. It's easy to do. I'm not going to do circuit board stuff, so the braid should work fine on the connections. I'm going to be soldering. I need to get rid of some of the solder in there. There's too much. Desoldering braid. Also, this is the stuff that came in from DynaKit, DynaKitParts.com. So from DynaKitParts.com, and they actually sell replacement parts for my DynaKit amplifier. They also sell complete kits. They also sell, like I was saying, they also sell entire kits, so I can actually buy this whole amplifier brand new and put it together myself. So it comes with the driver boards, comes with the chassis, comes with transformers, and I don't know if they look like they're called the same thing, but I don't know if they're the same transformers, because I don't think they're available anymore, but same style transformers. But they named them, they have the same numbers on them, the Z565, so I'm not sure if they're, I think they're newly produced ones, though not like these original made in the USA hand-wound ones. I think they're made in Japan or something now. So anyways, you can buy parts. So the parts I wanted to replace on this were easily available through them, so I bought it through them, and I'll go through what I'm going to upgrade. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take off this original, which is still, I think, very original to the amplifier, from 1966 AC cord, which is only a non-polarized, non-grounded plug. So it's not polarized, so it means that this plug can go in either way. It doesn't have a wide spade and a thin spade like modern day 2-prong plugs would have. So sometimes this is a hot and sometimes it's a neutral, depending on how you plug it in. It can affect actually some tube amplifiers if they're plugged in. The hot's on the wrong lead, you can actually get a little bit of noise on the amplifier. Sometimes apparently the amplifier might not even start. So you pull the plug out, reverse it, and plug it back in the other way, so you're getting the hot on the right plug for better sound quality and sometimes for even operation. This one, I'm not sure, I never tried it, but I did mark the way I had it plugged in. I put a little black dot and that's going to be the wide plug, so that's going to be the neutral. So white is always white on the wiring, so that's going to be, I'm going to trace it back, I'll see where that goes, and I'll try to keep the in there because the amp was running very quiet and was operating normally, so I'll just keep the white spade on that wire wherever it goes inside the amplifier. So this is the replacement cord I bought for it. It's a nice nice round plug. I'm hoping it's going to fit in the back. We're going to see how that goes. You just got to fit into that wire connector, but it's made for replacement for the ST-35, so I'm thinking it's the right gauge wire. It'll still fit into the grommet in the back that holds it in the back of the amplifier. We'll see how that works out later. So it's a nice long cord. It's good quality cord. It's 3-prong. So you always, with this, you don't need a wide spade because this orientates the two wires all the time. And then the end, of course, is going to have a black, a white, and a ground. So I'll be able to ground the chassis. So this is not a grounded chassis, and really, if something went wrong, you could get electrocuted off of it. So if you touched it and there was something connecting there, you'd get electrocuted. So at least for the ground, if something goes wrong, the amplifier and it grounds the chassis, goes to positive, goes to the chassis, it'll blow the circuit breaker in the house regular fuse. So this will help protect the amp a little better. There's sometimes people do the grounding plugs on tube amplifiers and they put a ground and they end up with some sort of a hum. So sometimes you can get kind of a ground loop somehow with this, but I don't believe that's going to happen. So it should be able to be pretty good with this. Give it a try anyway and see how that works out. So I want to modernize the plug so I have a nice grounded outlet and at least a little safer. And if something goes wrong, it'll be grounded to the fuse and the fusible bowl. So that's one of the things I got. In here. To go along with that is actually has nice comes with an instruction book. I didn't expect that. It actually has a grommet. I'm going to use a grommet. It has a little wire clip so you can fasten it inside to fasten the wire. It has a strain relief clip. So I'm hoping this new strain relief, I think, is designed for this cord and this amplifier. So you can see that in there. So that's you see that good? So this is a grommet, and this is another grommet. This is just a wire clip, so you can clip the cord inside the unit somewhere. This is a strain relief right here. So this clips together and you squeeze it and it fits in the hole and it holds the cord tight so you can't pull the cord back and forth and it stays attached to the chassis. As far as I know, that this is made for this kit, for this amplifier, so it's a replacement cord made for this amplifier. It's not just something I bought and thought, well, I hope it fits. It's actually made for this ST-35, so I think it's all going to fit good. This is going to be the right size for the hole, and it's going to fit the cord, it's going to hold it all good together. It comes with a nice star washer, and it comes everything you need to basically ground it down so I can ground it to the chassis. So it comes pretty nice. And actually it says suggested for ST-35, so you can see what they're suggesting you do. So ground it, power cord. So we'll look at these after and see how that goes. So that's pretty nice. Actually comes with an instruction sheet, so it's pretty good service there. And then what else we got here? Oh yeah, so well, it comes with instructions again. It's pretty nice. I never expected all of this. I just expected some parts. So this is pretty nice. This comes with more instructions for that. So it comes actually, this might be, well, this is my, it's not instructions. It's just my receipt for everything. So what I got here, I can have this, I guess, is I got some new replacement RCA jack inputs. So the reason I bought these is because they don't need to be replaced because they've already been replaced on this amplifier. If you take a look here, I'll tilt this up a little bit. You can see that right here. Here's a new input jack. So they're gold-plated RCA jacks, and the originals were taken off because the originals were made with aluminum grounding surface. So after a period of years, the aluminum doesn't really work out that well anymore, and it doesn't get a good contact. So typically you won't see an amplifier of this vintage in use anymore with the original jacks because they just don't contact well. So this is a typical replacement, but I don't like this replacement because if you look, just without breaking anything here, you can see right here, there's actually two holes. So there's a hole beside the input jack, so it kind of looks crappy from the front. So that's the front of the amplifier, and you're gonna this all loose. So you can see those. So what I did is I bought replacement jacks, which are original equipment replacements. So that I'm gonna have. Actually, I forgot to get the screws for that. Might have some. So I'm gonna have a replacement, which is all original. So it's basically what this amplifier came with when it was new. So it's gonna have the two holes. It's gonna cover up the holes, and it's got a plated aluminum housing. So, but they'll last for 10 years or something. Like it's not like, oh my God, I need gold plated because whatever. But so it should be good once I make the connection. They're good for 10 years or so. They're not gonna corrode, and it's not like take a lot of pulling the jack on and off. Yeah, so I'll put these in. I'll solder these in, and you can see they're nice little replacement jacks. So those will be on the front, and they'll look like nice and original. You won't have the empty holes, which I don't like the look of. So it's more just for aesthetics. You don't need actually the jacks that are in there are probably better quality jacks than these jacks because they're gold plated. They look pretty sturdy and all that stuff. But we'll put those in anyway. So it just gives us the aesthetics in the front look nice. So the last thing I got to do on this is to replace the last part of the upgrade I want to do is this piece, which is really the one thing I think I really need to do. Under this tape here, I think very important to do is the cap. So you can see the filter cap. See, this one's actually longer, so this might, I don't know if this is original or not, and the replacement's just a little longer. But basically this is the power smoothing caps. So if you remember from part one, I'll show this again. Is in part one section of this cap was probably not up to spec, so when they did the caps up here and did the things to restore this to get it to work again, make sure it works, it keeps on working. I guess you might say, I don't know if it was ever not working, but just the upgrades, capacitors and that have to be upgraded. It can last 66 years or 48 years. 30 years for capacitors is a long time. So whether this has been replaced at one time or not, I'm not sure, but probably one value was not good, so they put an external capacitor. So they bypassed one of the legs on this. If you look closely, you can see what I mean by this. There's I think you can see that. So you can see there's 4 symbols, and underneath there's symbols on the legs, and it shows what the values are. So one of the legs is 60 microfarads, one is 40, one is 20, and one is 100 microfarads. Then it shows what voltages each one has. So there's 3 at 450 volts and 1 at 25 volts. And it's all 85 degrees Celsius ratings. So basically there's the 4 legs, so there's 4 grounding pins. So this actually, outside case is actually the ground for the capacitors, and it has to be a really good connection. So you slide it through the holes, you give these a twist. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to end up soldering a little bit to the chassis, make sure good ground. And each one of these legs has different values of capacitance. And what they did is one of these didn't match up right, I guess, and they put an external capacitor. So they moved the wires off this leg, put a terminal strip, put all the wires together, and then put another capacitor in its place to replace the one capacitor inside the can. So I didn't like that. It doesn't look good underneath. So I thought, well, I'll just buy another can since it's available, and I'll just solder it in, and then the way I'm sure that all the capacitors inside, because they did bridge one across, so maybe one of the legs, the value was not quite right, so they used actually the one they're not using, bridge it across to bring up the capacitance, I think, there, to bring up the value. I think that's what they did. I was going to measure the cap once it's out and see if I can figure out what their logic was on that. At least this, I know it's a brand new cap, it's got all the values right on, and it's going to be for power. So it's only for power smoothing, so it's really important to have a nice quiet amplifier. The amplifier runs dead quiet though, there's no problems there, there's no humming or nothing like that in there. So, but at least I feel better knowing all the capacitance is good inside the can. So this can will be replaced with this can. So I'll show you what I'm talking about. I'll take the bottom off again. It's freaking heavy, this whole thing. Pull the bottom off again. I don't know if you want to get another look at the bottom. You can see how it's labeled. I bought 2, one thing I did too is to make sure I have There's a couple spare slow blow 1 amp fuses in case I do something weird there. But 1 amp blow, so I'll make sure I'll replace this with a nice new fuse and make sure I think it's the right value. Anyway, I checked, it's the right thing, so it should be all right. So we'll take a look inside again. Let's see the things I'm going to do. Try to get closer. That's good, I guess. Is I'm going to replace this power cord. So, oh, one thing I forgot. I don't have it. Hold on. Yeah. So, actually, I see at ST-35. You can see it's not a really good secure power cord. It goes through a grommet. And that's what they recommend, putting the other cord through grommet on. So you put a grommet in there, slide the cord through, and then you put in the little wire clamp. You're going to attach it to one of these screws, I think. One of these bolts, and it'll hold the wire in place so you can't pull it back and forth and have a grommet to keep it from chafing. And I think that's the way it goes on this one. It's not going to be the clamped on string relief. One thing I forgot about was I'm going to also not only change the power cord, I want to put a power switch. This amplifier has no power switch. Basically, you plug it in and it turns on. I think the idea back then was that you plug this into your preamplifier switched AC outlet, so when you turn on your preamplifier, your amplifier just turns on with it. So you don't have to worry about turning on the amplifier. Amplifier is on when the preamp's on, amplifier is off when the preamp's off. So I don't really like that because the way I'm running this, I'm running one set of speakers, I'll show after. One set of speakers with 3 separate power amplifiers. I use one amplifier for my surround sound when I'm watching movies and television. I use my one amplifier, which is the Bryston amplifier and preamplifier, the 1B and 4B amplifier for stereo listening. But now I introduce a third amplifier, which will be used for stereo listening. So sometimes the speaker outputs may not be connected because it'll be shared through the other amplifier, so it's complicated. But anyways, I don't want to have the preamp on because I'll be using it for the Bryson and have this amp turn on with the preamp. So I wanted to have a separate switch for this, so I just turned on when I'm going to use it. So I can have the preamp on for the Bryson and not have the amp on, this amp on. So I wanted to put a power switch. At first I bought this power switch, which I tried to find a 1/4 inch power switch, but I can only find a 1/2 inch. It's pretty big. I don't know about putting that in there. It's pretty large. I'll have to make a big hole. It'll probably fit in there, I guess. So it'll fit down in there, but it's kind of tight, it's kind of big. And it kind of looks caca. Don't really like it. So when I saw it, when I bought it, I thought, oh, I'll try it, but it seems kind of big for the amplifier. So I ended up finding a small one, which is really smaller than a 1/4 inch. It's a nice small power switch. You can see that. Show it close, it's so tiny. It's going to be a little tricky to solder in there, though, because it's got such small terminals. So if I hold it sideways, you can see how small it is. So it is an AC power switch, though, and it's rated for 3 amp. So it's no problem. This will never pull that much. It's only uses 100 watts of power, so I think it's like 1 amp, less than 1 amp maximum. I don't know if that's focusing. Anyways, I'm going to put this power switch back here, I believe. I was thinking of putting it in the front somewhere, so I might put it in the front and have it more convenient. And I think, actually, yeah, I think I will do that. Yeah, just stick it right in the front. So anyways, I got to decide on that. So I'm going to change the power cord. I'm going to put a power switch in, so it's going to have its own power switch, and then we'll go through the fuse too, of course, still. And that way I can turn the amp on and off when I want to use it, instead of relying on the preamp turning on and off all the time. So I'm going to do that upgrade. So back to what I was doing is changing power cord, putting in a power switch, replacing the fuse with a brand new fuse just to ensure I got the proper fuse in there. And then if I can get to this, I think close enough. There's this section here. I'm not going to touch this because I never checked it yet, and there still could be, always remember, there can be power even when it's not plugged in. There can be 400 volts of power in there, or 300 volts, some tube amplifiers, 600 volts of power in there, in this capacitor. So this capacitor can stay charged when the power is unplugged. And if you touch stuff, you'll get electrocuted, and it can be deadly. So you don't touch any part of the power circuit. Like, it's not bad, I can touch this. I'm not, touching anything with both hands or anything like that. So I'm not going to deliberately touch anything in the power circuit. Like the output part of the amp, probably okay, but you don't want to touch anything until you know there's no power there. So it's probably drained because it's been unplugged and off for quite a while, like all day. I think I listened to it yesterday afternoon, but yesterday morning. But anyways, getting back to this is what I'm replacing. So this is where the can goes. This can goes on the other side. Those 4 terminals, these 4 on the outside are the grounding pins. You can see them there if you look closely. I don't know if the camera's close enough you can see it, but I'll try to point to it. Don't touch anything. But these are the 4 pins. There's 1, there's 2. It's actually used for ground. 3 and 4, and it's usually for the ground also. So they're using actually soldering the ground on the soldering to the cap can. So this is the replacement capacitor. If you remember from the first video, this capacitor right here is what they replaced to take up this leg. I need this wire out of the way. This leg is supposed to do the job of this capacitor. So they took all the wires off of that. They moved it over. They put a little single terminal block. They soldered all the wires right here. Put that capacitor in place of this leg. But they also, because circuit diagram doesn't show, I've never seen anywhere it shows a bridge going from this leg to that leg. So I'm thinking what was, but this one checked out bad enough to want to replace it. This one value was off a little bit, but adding this one in because it's a lower value and adding it together with this one ended up making a good value for that one. That's why I'm suspect about the can. I don't know if it's right. It seems to sound okay. It doesn't seem to be a problem there, but it's best to have that all good. That's for the power smoothing. So basically what this part of the circuit does is AC comes in, goes through the transformer, comes out of the transformer as AC. So basically it's coming in 120 volts, coming out I think in this amplifier 300 volts and or something like that, somewhere around there. And it comes through these 2 rectifiers. So that converts it from AC to DC. So this is a full wave rectifier, so it does both up and down part of the sine wave, the AC sine wave. It makes it a nice flat, makes it a flat DC current. And then it has to go through these capacitors and resistors and all that to make a nice, it doesn't have ripples. Because the DC will still have ripples, and it'll be, that's what they call power supply noise. So what these capacitors do is they smooth out that DC and line and make it perfectly flat. So you get a nice smooth DC current going to supply all the tubes and start making the audio output. And so basically that's what I'm replacing, is that part of that. All the rest should be good. It's all been pretty much done already, and it all sounds okay. So that'll be the job I'm doing, and I'll probably time lapse that just so you can see me do it. And so I'll turn that couple hours into a matter of 2 or 3 minutes, and we'll see how that works. And so just one more thing before I do the work on this though. I'm going to take my other digital camera I use for still images, I used to use for videos, but take some good close-up macro shots there. Make sure I got all the wiring, good close shots of the photographs of the wiring, to make sure that when I pull the wires off I don't get mixed up and go, oh, which way was that and where did it go. So I'll take a few good photographs on that, so when I desolder everything, take the can out, and I go put everything together, I can put everything there before I solder it. I can verify with the photograph that I did it right, and because you don't want to get this wrong. Doing this wrong can cause some, I believe, could cause some damage. If you hook up these capacitors, well, I don't think I can hook them up wrong, but if you were to hook them up backwards, they would explode. So I don't think I can put them polarity wrong because all the stuff's going there, ground's on there. So, but I have to make sure, because there is it looks like one of the transformer lines actually goes to here, so that's going to ground. And so if I mixed up those 2 transformer lines, the capacitor would actually explode. So I don't want to do that, I don't believe, anyway. So I'll take some photographs and before I do the work, and that way I have something to refer to. I got circuit diagrams also, and I'll be able to use that to show you that. So I also have a circuit diagram that comes with it's actually the original manual for this. Well, not original to this, my very own one, but original to the ST-35. And so I got a circuit diagram I can use to refer to make sure I wire it correctly. And go through it the same way as we have it here. So basically you can see, I'll get my pointer again. This section is the can. You can see the symbols, so it has a half curve symbol, has that symbol. So actually, these are actually representative of two parts. So this is basically saying this is the cathode. This is the, well, maybe not, I'm not sure. I better not say that because I could be wrong. But anyways, it has the symbols here so you can see where they go, where the wires go, and it tells you the colors. These are original diodes. They've been replaced with these transistor looking diodes, which are just, they're still diodes. They're just, I think, are better, actually better diode than these type of diodes to make the rectifier. So it's a solid state rectifier circuit. And so I have this I can refer to if I get lost in the wiring. I can try and figure out how it goes, and I can actually, before I do anything, I'm going to verify this wiring actually meets this type of wiring. So I'll look at this diagram, check this. If it looks the same, then I know I can refer to this after also. And I'll take photographs to just to double check, make sure I'm doing it right, so I don't do anything wrong. And so that'll be what I can refer to. I also have, I'll hold that there if you want to pause and look at it. I also have the actual schematic. So schematic would be the actual circuit diagram showing actual circuits and where they go through all that. It's not just, this is a pictorial, so this is not a schematic, it's a diagram. So I have the schematic also if I need to refer and go, okay, let's really make sure I know what I'm doing. So I can refer to the schematic and make sure things are going where they're supposed to go. And so that should work out pretty good. Oh, and of course, I was so excited about my little amplifier, and it's working so perfectly. I'm so happy with it, and these little upgrades I'm going to do are just going to make it safer and more reliable, so that I can use it for hopefully another 48 years, because it's 48 years old. So hopefully it'll keep on going for that long again. I forgot to mention it was brought to you by Keystone Ice. And of course, just like I did before, Keystone Ice doesn't really sponsor me. I'm just kidding about that. But I do drink the beer. And this is the Peebo video series video. So it's dedicated to Peebo again. And it's brought to you by Keystone Ice. And it's part of my winter vacation series of videos, sort of. So I almost forgot to do that because I'm so excited about my little amplifier here. I'm probably just going to clean it up a little bit. I don't know if I can clean it up or not. It's a little bit grungy looking, but I think it's a bit of a patina. But I think it can probably polish up a little bit. I'll maybe spend some time and see if we can clean it up a little bit. I think but just probably clean up just with a little bit of saliva and rubbing in my finger. It's pretty dirty. I think it's also it's just surface dirt. It's not really corrosion. I don't think it looks corroded at all. This base is actually nickel base, so it's pretty durable. It's well resistant to corrosion. Okay, so I just want to do that because I forgot to mention my sponsor, and I forgot to mention this is a Peebo video series video dedicated to Peebo.